Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Welcome to episode 312 of the IT Career Energizer podcast. My guest on today's show is a self-taught web developer who provides practical tips and tutorials for beginners in web development, which she shares through her blog posts and her YouTube channel, Coder Coder. So it's my pleasure to welcome to the podcast, Jessica Chan.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on.
Jessica, I want to really start and ask you a little bit about your YouTube channel and how that actually came about.
Yeah, so I had worked as a web developer for a number of years. I worked mainly in marketing and advertising. And I'd also, on the side, always had this interest in running my own business, but I didn't really have an idea in mind yet. But I was on a trans-Pacific flight to visit a friend in Japan, and while on the flight, I was reading this book called The $100 Startup by Chris Guillebeau. And in it, he asked the reader, if you're thinking about a possible business idea, what are you most passionate about? And I realized at that point that as a self-taught developer, I was most passionate about coding because I had just had to figure out a lot on my own, and I felt like I could sort of give back to other people who were also trying to learn web development and sort of help them on their journey so that hopefully they wouldn't have to have quite as painful a process of learning as I did. So that's kind of how that all started.
Right, yes. Right, okay. And how long has the channel been running?
How long have I been doing it?
Yeah.
I started the channel back in 2017, but I think I was maybe more consistent in uploading videos starting in probably 2019. So it's still been a few years.
Yes. And in terms of obviously the number of people who actually, listen or sort of watch YouTube, has it been an increasing number of people, and do you get engagement directly from that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that maybe the first 2 years that I had the YouTube channel, it was kind of slow, steady growth. I think I was just looking at my analytics recently, and a year ago today, I had about 36,000 subscribers on my channel.
Yep.
And today I just passed 200,000 subscribers. So I've definitely had a huge amount of growth in the past year.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's quite dramatic. So that really is sort of evidence of if you stick to something and keep going, it sort of generates momentum, doesn't it? And I think, consistency is key to that, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The first year or two of anyone, I think, doing a YouTube channel, you're not going to see a lot of growth. So it's important to keep pushing and try not to get too discouraged.
Exactly. Right. Okay. Jessica, we're going to talk about obviously careers now. So can you maybe give us a bit of a tip about career growth, one that the audience may not be aware of and perhaps should be?
For sure. Before YouTube, when I was working as a web developer, I would actually say that communication skills are just as important, if not more important, than the actual, coding and technical skills. Obviously, you need to have a certain level of technical skills, but I kind of felt just sort of observing other developers as well as having my own experiences that being able to communicate things to, for example, your project manager and other people on your team is just really important. Let's say you're falling behind on a deadline. You want to bring that up as early as possible so that your team can sort of figure out a solution to that. And then, other ways of communicating would be like explaining technical concepts to people on your team who aren't developers. I think that's another important skill that is really good to have, and it'll make you someone that other people want to work with, as opposed to being someone that people try to avoid working with.
Indeed. I mean, you're right about communication skills. Obviously, that is a very important part of particularly tech jobs, I think. And as you say, being able to sort of explain concepts and technologies to people from different areas and maybe different different industry sectors and different levels as well. You've got to be able to sort of tailor how you communicate to people. So yeah, I totally agree. And obviously the different forms of communication are quite key to that as well. So people have different strengths in the way they communicate, and other people sort of are able to interpret information in different ways. So it's always important to understand not only what you're communicating, but how you're communicating it.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Jessica, can you tell us about your worst IT career moment and what you learned from that experience?
I definitely had a lot of mishaps and mistakes happen. I would say maybe earlier on in my web developer career, but one story that probably was a pretty low point for me was I was working on a redesign of a client's website, and we were using Git for our version control as we normally did. And I don't know if it's too technical, but I was working on like a branch just for the redesign. And for some reason, I don't know what I was thinking, but I wanted to delete that branch, maybe rename it or something. But in my ignorance, I deleted it, and I also deleted it from the origin. So I just had completely deleted like 2 weeks of work, and I was unable to retrieve it. So I was probably panicking quite a bit. But the good thing is that I talked to my coworkers, and one of them was actually able to get the branch restored by talking to our host, where we were hosting our repository. So everything was restored. It was all good. And, I learned the important lesson of, don't delete stuff off your origin if you're using Git.
Yes.
But
fair enough. Obviously, backups are a useful thing to have, aren't they? So when those things do happen, and it's a simple mistake to make sometimes. But yes, I can see why that may have been a bit of a scary moment.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one thing that I think was good was that I didn't just stay quiet and just try to remake all the work myself, but I did mention it. I did bring it up to my team. And they were able to fix it. And so I think it's okay to make mistakes. It's not okay to sit on a mistake and have a deadline be affected. So
absolutely, I think the worst thing you can do is just either try to fix it yourself and take far too long to do it, or just try and not to raise it as an issue. That'd probably be the worst thing to do. But it's as you say, the right thing obviously is to make sure that people are aware straight away, and give you the best opportunity and chance to actually restore back to the starting point. But good. Okay. But in terms of your career, I'm sure you've got one or two highlights. Could you maybe give us an example of a highlight?
Honestly, I would say that my highlight so far is being able to actually quit my full-time job as a developer in order to, focus on YouTube and other content creation stuff. I'm still obviously coding every day pretty much, but now I'm teaching other people how to learn coding as opposed to, working for a company and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So by doing that, I mean, we touched on it earlier, but you're able to sort of engage and build your own community as well, presumably.
Yes. Yeah, that's been extremely satisfying, I would say. I just really enjoy helping people understand something that they didn't know before, and also helping people, change their career. And it's kind of mind-boggling to think about, but I've actually gotten, messages from people saying, hey, like, I just wanted to say you helped me like get a job as a web developer and change my career. And I was doing this other thing before that, wasn't earning a lot of money. And so just being able to be a part of someone's story like that, that's so transformative, is just it's kind of humbling, but it's very cool.
Yeah. As you say, very rewarding in terms of, what you're doing actually makes a difference to somebody else's life. That's great to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, and what excites you about the future of careers in IT in particular? So, are there sort of any sort of technologies or any sort of concepts that you find interesting, and you think there's definitely sort of a future in that particular area?
One thing that I've noticed recently is that there are a lot of developer advocate roles just kind of popping up, which has been really interesting. And from what I understand, developer advocate or developer relations, I believe is what it's called, is you're basically a content
Yeah.
creator for a specific company. And I think companies are realizing now that they're a really effective way to get, word out about your product or whatever the company's about. And so they're actually hiring teams of people who, you might be making YouTube videos or tweeting or writing blog posts about the company's product. And so it's a really great way for people who are web developers who are maybe interested in more in that educational angle. So that's something new that I've seen that I think is really cool.
Yes, I think you're right. I mean, I've interviewed a few people on the podcast who are developer advocates.
Mhm.
And yeah, a lot of it, as you say, is about presenting at conferences, writing books, doing blog posts, all those sorts of things to help promote their company and what they do and maybe different technology stacks and so forth. So it's certainly an area that lends itself to those who like to be a little bit more creative, perhaps. So yeah, I think that's a great area to get into if that's the sort of thing you want to do. But are there any sort of technology areas that you think are of interest?
Um, I write a lot of Sass for my styles. So Sass is like a preprocessor for CSS. And it's just been really cool seeing how CSS itself has evolved to sort of take some of the features that Sass had, and now they're kind of native to CSS. It's kind of like how, jQuery had a lot of features that, originally JavaScript didn't have. That's why you needed jQuery. And now JavaScript has, these native things that make it so that you don't necessarily have to depend on jQuery to do things like that. So it's really interesting to see how CSS has evolved and changed. For example, Sass variables, that's a really big thing that I've used. And now CSS has CSS custom properties or variables. That's pretty much what they are. So it's been really interesting to see things change, the longer that I'm working in this field.
Yeah, and in terms of obviously the videos and the tutorials that you produce, how do you keep on top of things? How do you look for the next topic that you want to provide a tutorial on?
Yeah, that's definitely it's a constant thing you have to think about. I think what I personally don't try to be myself on the cutting edge, but rather I'm okay not being the first person to make a video about some up and coming feature. So I will follow, podcasts like, for example, Syntax FM with Wes Boss and Scott Tolinsky. That's like excellent for developers. Such a good way to keep track of new and upcoming trends because they are really good at staying on top of what's new. And then I also follow dev Twitter as much as I can. I try not to spend too much time on Twitter, but it's a good way to see what else people are working on. And then also blogs like CSS Tricks or Smashing Magazine. Those are other ways that I think you can use to try to follow trends as closely as you choose to.
Sure. Yeah, good. Okay. We're going to go into the reveal round now. We're going to find out a little bit more about you and the way you think. Are you ready for this?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So, what first attracted you to a career in IT?
Yeah, so I have always been interested in computers and websites and stuff. I actually taught myself HTML and CSS when I was in middle school to build GeoCities web pages. I'm kind of dating myself here. And I also ran a BBS bulletin board system. This is back in the days of dial-up before the internet was around in high school. So I think I've always been kind of interested in tech and computer stuff, and I just really always liked being able to build something and you sort of see the final product on the computer. And it feels tangible, which is kind of ironic since it's a digital entity, but it's really satisfying to work on something and then being able to see the final product.
Yes, indeed. And what is the best career advice you've ever received?
I would say this is more for the content creation side, but like before I started Coder, I did a lot of research. I would read blogs and listen to podcasts from people who were already doing that. And I think the best piece of advice that I heard was always keep your audience in mind. So, either you're solving a problem for them and educating them, or you're, entertaining them. And I say that because, and this is something I struggle with myself, but it can be really easy to fall into this habit of trying to make content that you think the algorithm will like, whether that's YouTube or Instagram, other social media. But it's kind of it's like a secondary goal. It focusing too much on that can kind of lead you away from your primary goal, which is supposed to be, helping people who are trying to learn from you. So yeah, just trying to always keep the audience in mind.
That's very true. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I think it can be a bit of a distraction, can't it, when you start talking about, as you say, the algorithms and trying to obviously make your content suit the algorithm as opposed to solving the problem that somebody's looking to find a solution to.
Yeah, exactly. It's loading and reloading their analytics can sometimes lead you down a rabbit hole that's not great.
Yes. And what is the worst career advice you've ever received?
Um, so I don't think I've ever gotten really terrible advice from, someone who's like in a mentor type role in my life, but someone did once tell me that I should be a teacher. And when they said that, they were thinking like a school teacher. And at the time, I remember not being interested in that like at all. I have a huge amount of respect for teachers, especially nowadays. I think it's a very difficult and thankless career sometimes, but I just know that personally that would be a terrible fit for me because I'm like really introverted. I think it'd just be not great for me. But the teaching aspect I do like, and I think that's why that person mentioned that to me, that I would be a good teacher. So it was it was really just a matter of finding the right venue for the teaching, and I found that with helping people on YouTube. And so I think it's just been a really great career fit for me.
Yeah, very much so, yes. And if you had to begin your career again in today's world, what would you do?
I'm not too big on regrets in life, but I would say that I do sometimes wish I'd got into tech a little bit earlier. So even though I have been doing, website stuff since I was young, it actually didn't occur to me that I might enjoy it as a career until like I was in my late 20s. And I just kind of spent most of my 20s working in office jobs because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life at that point. And so I sometimes feel like it wasn't maybe the best use of my time, but honestly, I can't say that I regret it because things have worked out pretty well for me in the end. I think sometimes going from point A to point B, as much as we would like it to be a direct line, sometimes we have to take a more roundabout route, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. Yes, you are the sum of your experiences, aren't you?
Mhm.
And it's what suits you. And you've demonstrated that you get to the point where you find what you want to do, what you love, and off you go. So yes. And what career objectives are you currently focusing on?
Right now, I'm mainly working on trying to get Coder to be financially sustainable. Because right now, I have not matched my previous developer income yet. Hopefully someday. But right now, I'm working on a course that will teach people how to build a front end website from scratch. Um,
Yeah.
and so, this is building websites from designs is basically what I spent years doing in my career as a developer. And so I do feel like this is an area that I can help people. So so that'll hopefully help out with the financial part of things and also just being able to interact with my audience on maybe a closer level for the people in the course. And that's the main goal. Other than that, just trying to, keep creating fun and useful videos on YouTube.
Good. Okay. And what's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
I would say that I'm pretty good at anticipating needs. So this is mainly back when I was working in advertising and stuff. I think I'm pretty good at sort of anticipating what we would need to have in order to say launch or deploy our website. Just making sure we have all the assets down, being able to raise flags of, oh hey, we need to make sure we have this image set up because it takes a server a while to cache and show the new image when we upload it to the server. So just things like that, and just kind of being able to support the project manager as much as possible, so that we have a successful launch.
Okay. And what do you do to keep your own career energized?
I just try not to. I think I try not to let things stagnate too much. So, tech is always changing constantly. So I just in general try to not, I try to never stop learning and, trying out new things and just making sure that I'm experimenting with different things as opposed to, resting on my laurels and just putting out the same kind of video time and time again. Just making sure that I keep things fresh and always try to help my audience.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, it's interesting to know, but do you watch other people's videos and see what they're doing?
I do sometimes. It's kind of like I'm a little bit ambivalent about it, to be honest. Not because I don't like watching other people's videos, but I'm sort of afraid of copying someone else's video idea, like by accident. So I sort of stay away from that for that reason.
Okay, fair enough. Yes. And what do you do in your spare time away from technology?
In my spare time, yeah, I try not to have screen time 24/7 because I think I've done that and that's not very good for my well being. But I think recently I've been trying to spend more time in nature. So, like going camping with my husband and just like taking walks outside. And I think in general, trying not to just be staring at a screen, even if it's my phone all the time.
Yeah, you do need that sort of away from screen time, don't you? It can be a bit too much. And I think you need that sort of mental break as well, don't you? So
Oh, for
getting
sure.
out in the fresh air, going camping, it's ideal, isn't it?
Yeah, that helps a lot, I think.
Yeah. And Jessica, can you share with us a parting piece of career advice?
Yeah, so I would say, whether you're trying to be a web developer and learning how to code on your own, or if you want to be a content creator and, make videos on YouTube, I would say just try to keep in mind that big life goals like that are a marathon and they're not a sprint. I think kind of like we said at the beginning, don't get discouraged if you're not seeing the results that you want right away. When I originally started Coder, like I was like, I want to do this full time, even in year one. And, it's been 4 years since that point. And so things like that just take time. But hopefully if you're enjoying it, you're having a good time.
Exactly. Yes. And Jessica, where can we find out more about you and connect with you?
You can find me on YouTube. My channel is called Coder. And then I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. And my username on both those places is the Coder. And my blog is at coder-coder.com.
Brilliant. Jessica, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's been great chatting with you.
Thanks so much, Phil, for having me.
Hi, Phil here again. Well, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with today's guest. You can find full show notes on the website at itcareerenergizer.com/e and the number of the episode you've been listening to. If you haven't already subscribed to the show, please make sure that you do so that you get episodes automatically downloaded to your device every Monday. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.